Hey guys, how you going? I'm Leki.
I'm Aarvi.
And welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of The Positive Experience, where we look at the good, the bad and the ugly of living your best life. And today is a segment on the trenches. And we're currently filming from VU in Victoria University in Footscray. We've just finished one of our training sessions for Pro Trainer 2020. We'll have some more information about that coming out shortly. But that's for the change of location today.
Alright, so yeah, pretty much today just talked about a bit of bat testing that you probably all heard about, which is a screening tool that we brought out to the general public. It's an athletic screening tool and it pretty much shows you the good, the bad, the ugly of
your parts and pieces.
Yeah, pretty much. There we go, head to toe, and it's a good test. And so if you really want to get yourself checked out, it'd be a good thing to look into. And we actually do it in clinic and we give you a full report as well and give you some recommendations to follow if you need anything.
Nice plug.
Yeah.
Nice plug, I like it.
All right, and then so then what today's one? It's the 5 W's. So we're gonna talk. It's gonna go back to Leki because last time we did the 5 W's on myself about high school, and this time we're gonna do the 5 W's on Leki about university. Ooh. So we're gonna cover why, what, where, when, and who. All right, so we'll start off. Which one goes first?
Take your pick, I reckon.
All right, so why? All right, so why did you decide to go to uni, and what did just why?
Yeah, so education is really big in migrant families. So it was pushed on us, and my father's a local doctor out west. And so I was actually gunning red hot to be a doctor as well. So I tried really hard in high school, didn't quite get there. So physio I think was number 3, didn't quite get into dent. And so physio I got into, and but didn't look back. I had the intention of going back and maybe trying to get into medicine, but I actually enjoyed it. Given that I'm pretty chatty in nature and I like the sporting side of things. But yeah, that's basically why I got into physio was education was strongly emphasised at home.
Right, so I should have went to what first. So what is pretty much, what did you study in uni?
Yeah.
And because you would have, I think you went to, I'll let you describe.
Yeah. So after high school, I actually did a year at Deakin. So I did a general degree in biomedical science because I was pretty bummed out I didn't get into med. So I was thinking, which way should I go? And biomedical science at Deakin, Burwood. I was travelling from where I was living, close to the city, out to Burwood, and I would be reading the thick biochemistry textbooks and things. And I decided that it probably wasn't the pathway. The lab coat wasn't for me. But there were aspects of the biomedical science degree that were, I enjoyed the physiology, I enjoyed the anatomy, and then, so I was sort of 50-50. What I knew was I wasn't supposed to be in the lab. So from there, I then applied and got into physio. So that way I finished my 1 year, transferred pretty easily into physio at Melbourne Uni, and then I punched out those 4 years and graduated 2007.
Right, so pretty much you answered it before. Pretty much when did you finish uni?
So I finished year 12 in 2002. When I finished off year 12, got into biomedical science at Deakin 2003, and then got into Melbourne University 2004. Punched out those 4 years, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007. Finished off at Melbourne University, and then jumped straight into the workplace in 2008. So I think if I took a gap year at high school or a gap year at the end of uni, I'd probably still be somewhere in Europe. So like, bugger that, better get in and keep working, and I haven't stopped since.
So pretty much where, so you discuss where you did or where you went from Deakin and then to Melbourne. So maybe talk about where you were living at the time.
Yeah. So at the time I was living at home with my parents. At the time, my brother, who was a year younger than me, finished up and he was sort of moving down the business end. So he was at Monash and Caulfield, and we decided to move out together. And we lived in an inner city apartment, which was pretty central in South Bank. I was also working in Crown at the arcade thing there just to fund my way through. Plus I was playing rugby and I was studying full time. Big shout out to Delaware North. They're an awesome catering company, so for any university students there, Delaware North is an awesome place to work, to get some good cash in. You get some good hours that are good for university students, so you can study. And I'm not sure if they're good now, but they were really good at the time. And so I was working at the tennis, I was working at the concerts, I was working at the footy, the rugby, and shouting all my mates' drinks and things. But yeah, highly recommend checking out those catering companies. Really good for you, good gig for uni students.
So with those catering companies, do you need any experience, or can you?
No, so it's highly desired, but the turnover is high because uni students, they come and go, and so they'll train you and they'll plonk you where they need you.
Nice. All right. And who? So I think in the previous podcast about high school, we sort of looked at who you sort of looked into. So I think MSN would have been big. What was big back then? I don't know. Maybe you can give us a bit more detail. What was big, and who were you sort of listening to or watching? YouTube, anything?
Yep. So around that time, MySpace was still going pretty heavy, like with the social network stuff. I was really big on Bebo. That's actually where I met my wife. So yeah, so you don't know where hello may take you. So Bebo, I would say in terms of profession-wise, I was just really big into rugby players and big names at that time, All Blacks, Wallabies. My favourite player was George Smith. And he wasn't very big on his strength and conditioning. He was just naturally gifted. And so I guess I was following George Smith, but if I had my time again, I would have spent more time in the gym to prepare my body to play rugby, because I sustained a lot of injuries. I've mentioned about this in the past, bung shoulder, concussion problems, really poor hamstrings. I would have liked to have shown more interest in the strength and conditioning protocols. And I would have liked to have understood a little bit better about, maybe just how to put on weight and the diet side of things. I ate what I wanted, whenever I wanted, and regularly. And so, culturally within our Pacific Island community, we tend to overeat, and if you're hosting a party, you oversupply food so people can take food home. So even though I was playing a lot of rugby and expending a lot of energy, health-wise, if you check my bloods out at the time, I think I would have been pretty cactus. So the flick switched when I stopped playing, but I kept up those same habits. Then I had a first child, and then things cascaded the wrong way. So right now things are very different, but at the time, that's what I probably would have looked to have done. Followed a better who.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the 5 W's, but I'll just go a bit more back and just be like, I think you discussed earlier that maybe to summarise quickly, we'll go with all the 5 W's again and just be like, what changed from your high school head to your uni head? This could be study or just other things. Like the what?
I would say one of the big what's that changed from high school to university was, because I know some of you guys that may be watching are going into uni now, so the way that I studied changed quite a lot, because in high school you're a bit more spoon-fed and things are kind of given to you. At university, it's really off your own bat. So the way that I studied was a lot more systematized. So I was really good at crunching out a good solid about 60 to 80 minutes of study every night, and that was the best that I could do. So I wasn't a very good note taker. I'm a good auditory listener, and then I can process things, and I'm a good visual sort of learner, but other than that, I'm not very good with reading and digesting information that way. So if I was to go back and give University Leki some advice, high school Leki some advice, I would prepare myself on how I best study. If I'm good in the morning, so I get up early and study then, or do the work that I need to then, and then have the night off or whatever, or the other way around, make sure that I have my processes on studying effectively. Because there's only 24 hours in the day, you've got to maximise it as best you can.
I think this is more the why. So pretty much in high school, I think you mentioned you were gung-ho in med.
Yeah.
And then pretty much in uni, did a bit of that and changed to physio. So why?
That's it.
Yeah.
Good. So, sorry, now I'm with you. So it's a quick recap. So why? Yeah. So education is a big thing, and I was naturally going towards the sciences anyway, and landed on physio in the end.
And then, so where were you living in high school, and then where were you living in
Out west?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Suburban Way, we were sort of Footscray, Altona North Way, then Hoppers, and then as we were getting towards the back end of high school, it was in the city, in South Bank, and we carried on there when I was in uni with my brother.
Oh, yeah. And that was the whole uni degree?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. Didn't go to any uni parties and stuff like that? Or?
Oh, there was plenty.
And I think you discussed earlier, so you finished in 2007, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So over the span of the uni courses, can you give us a bit more information about the placements you did maybe?
Yeah. So I was assigned, so with Melbourne University I have relationships with Western Health, Austin Health and Melbourne, Royal Melbourne. So I was with the Austin, so I was in Heidelberg, I was at Austin Repat around the corner, and the Repat, and one other spot I can't remember. So apart from that, I also did private clinic placement at 2 shops, one in Epping and one very far away, I can't remember. And I also, because I was played a lot of rugby, I also volunteered my time to help out my rugby club, Footscray, and that's where I practiced a lot of my taping. And the guys, they were happy for me to just get sort of any old thing in, and as I got better and got used to different parts and pieces, I got a lot better with strapping.
Nice. And then finish off with the who again, like we did before. Just talk about who you were following in high school, and who was you following uni. Like, what was the biggest change between the two?
I think with time and experience, your interests change. So very high school, you're a bit more sheltered. Then you're exposed to new ideas at university. And then you sort of move from your high school crowd to your university crowd. And then apart from university crowd, you got your people that you work with. And then you got your rugby mates. You got your suburban mates. So you got like different groups that you sort of have your time that you share with. And so I think for me, my university experience was just opening my mind to lots of different ideas. And so I would say, be prepared if you're going from high school to university. Just be prepared to lots of challenging new ideas. You might have a particular dogma about certain things. Like if you're religious, you go to university, you might find that there's people that don't have religion at all, which is cool. You might have a particular idea about food that you eat, and then you go to find somebody that hasn't eaten meat for 8 years. So I think for me, going to an all-boys school as well is a bit of a challenge when you see all the girls around and the different mechanics around that too, because it can obviously affect some blokes with your study habits and things. But as a general comment, I'd say guys are a bit generally a bit slacker in high school, but then they catch up at university. So that was my observation at what I saw at uni. So all in all, I would say I enjoyed my university experience a lot more than high school. I enjoyed the freedom. At the same time, I wouldn't say enjoyed, but I understood the responsibility that came with that. So I wasn't like a superstar academic. I got through pretty well, and now I'm at the other end, still in the physio game 13 years later, so obviously enjoying it.
Good. So probably, I think you mentioned earlier, but the biggest change you found was in high school you were a bit more spoon-fed, and then in uni you sort of weren't, and you're just given the work. How did you make that change, and what strategies did you put in to just get the work done? Because a lot of people go, exam period comes up around uni and everyone stresses out. Did you put anything in place?
I was never a good crammer. It's just not my style. So I was like I was like a cow. I was a grazer. I would just graze away at the at the notes and stuff, and it was just my style. This was before all the technology and that, so there was no like Apple laptops and things. We were just started to get iPods, and that was starting to go pretty heavy. So I would say the biggest thing for me was just understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then just persisting with that as best you can, and learn as you go. You don't have the keys to the universe straight away, but I found it all in all a really great experience.
Nice. All right, so that's the 5 W's. Episode 2 done. So pretty much we learned a bit about Leki while he was at uni, where he lived, what he actually was studying at the start, and what he got into, and then when he finished, and who he was kind of following, and some pointers and some tips that he found, like the strengths and weaknesses he had, and he stuck to his strengths, which got him to where he is now, I suppose. And that's probably the best intake I'd probably give to anyone. So at high school, you're sort of given the way to study and what how to do it. But in uni, you just got to find ways what actually works for you, and study that way. So maybe I won't go into what I prefer. Maybe the next time when we talk about myself. But Leki likes is more like listening to it and watching instead of just reading books and reading textbooks and stuff. So, and that's what he did, and that's what got him through, I suppose.
He did. He got me through, fortunately. Yeah. So, as I said, if I took a gap year, I'd probably still be in Europe. So, lucky I didn't. So that's our 5 Ws. This is the trenches segment, okay, of our podcast called The Positive Experience. So, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep an eye out. We're going to drop some new stuff on you, as we've been hinting. So, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Thanks, guys, and we'll catch up again soon. See ya.